Last night was supposed to be just another ordinary dinner, nothing fancy, nothing out of the blue. Just me, my husband Carlos, and two of his college friends, Alex and Becky. Carlos had been hyping up this trendy new restaurant downtown for weeks. He wouldn't stop talking about how everyone on social media was raving about it, how their cocktails were life-changing, and how the food was next level. I didn't really care where we ate, but Carlos insisted this was the place. The moment we walked in, I could tell it was the kind of spot people went to be seen. Loud music, neon lights, tables packed with groups celebrating a big sports win. The energy was buzzing, like the whole city had decided to party there. That night, I already felt a little out of place. These were Carlos's old college buddies, people who shared memories and inside jokes I was never a part of. They laughed about late-night study sessions, wild frat parties, and old professors with weird habits. I smiled, nodded, sipped my drink, and tried to blend in. But deep down, I felt like the outsider tagging along. Still, I told myself, relax, just enjoy the night. And for a while, I managed to, until one small, innocent question turned the whole evening upside down. Alex leaned back in his chair, swirling his beer casually, and asked, "So, how did you two meet?" Now, in any other setting, that's a sweet, harmless question. A chance to laugh about your first date, maybe share a cute detail about falling in love. I opened my mouth to answer because, honestly, I like telling the story of how Carlos and I first crossed paths. But Carlos didn't let me. Before I could get a single word out, he cut me off with this smug, dismissive smirk plastered on his face. Then, loud enough for everyone at the table to hear, he said, "She basically begged me to date her." I froze. My wineglass stopped halfway to my lips. My cheeks burned instantly, and I swear the air around us thickened like everyone at the table could feel the humiliation radiating off me. Alex's smile faltered. Becky's eyes widened for a split second before she nervously looked down at her menu. The silence was so heavy I could hear the clinking of glasses from other tables. But Carlos wasn't done. He leaned back in his chair, gestured at me with his hand like I was some kind of exhibit on display, and added, "She was desperate, average, nothing special. I just said yes because she wouldn't stop chasing me." Alex let out a nervous laugh, the kind people make when they're not sure if they're supposed to laugh or run. Becky looked even more uncomfortable, glued to her phone as though the screen could shield her from witnessing the disaster unfolding in front of her. Meanwhile, I sat there gripping my glass so tightly my knuckles turned white. Every word Carlos said felt like a knife, twisting deeper and deeper, and still he didn't stop. Carlos took a slow sip of his whiskey, enjoying the performance, then smirked again. "Honestly, I'm only still with her because I don't have time to train someone hotter." For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. Alex gave this low, awkward chuckle, half disbelief, half peer pressure. Becky practically buried her face in her phone, but me, I sat in shock, trying to wrap my head around the fact that the man I married, the man who told me he loved me just last week, was sitting here tearing me down in front of his friends like it was some twisted comedy routine. "Carlos, what the hell?" I finally whispered. My voice was shaky, almost drowned out by the noise of the restaurant. He didn't flinch. He didn't apologize. He just looked at me with pure disgust, as if I had interrupted his show. Then he turned back to Alex and Becky and said, "See? Too sensitive. Always clingy. I deal with this every day." It was like a slap in the face. By now, Carlos had downed 3 glasses of whiskey, and the alcohol only made him bolder. His face flushed, eyes sharp, voice louder. Alex tried to change the subject, mumbling something about work. But Carlos waved him off like he was the star of the night. "You know why I married her?" he said with this wicked grin, locking eyes with me. No one answered. No one even moved. Then, he leaned in, pointing right at me, and said, "Because let's be real, nobody else wanted her. I'm doing her a favor." That was it. Something inside me snapped. 5 years of marriage, 5 years of memories, all gone in a single, cruel sentence. Before I knew what I was doing, I stood up so fast my chair screeched against the floor. My hand tightened around my glass of Coke. For 1 second, Carlos looked smug, like he thought I was about to storm out in tears, but I didn't. I lifted the glass slightly, my hand trembling just enough to make my point clear, and then without a second thought, I let it go. The cold Coke splashed across his face, drenching his hair, his shirt dripping down onto his lap. The entire restaurant went dead silent. Carlos sat frozen, dripping and shocked. His smug grin finally wiped clean. That single moment, watching the look of utter humiliation spread across his face, was the tiniest victory I needed. I grabbed my purse, lifted my chin, and walked out. Behind me, the silence broke with Alex's stunned whisper, "Holy shit." As I stepped onto the street, the night air hit me hard. My hands shook, sticky from the coke, my chest rising and falling like I'd just run a marathon. Rage, shame, disbelief, and then almost unbelievably laughter bubbled up inside me. Because what had just happened felt so surreal, so insane, that laughing was the only way my body knew how to handle it. My phone buzzed in my purse. Over and over again. Carlos, Alex, then Carlos again. Text after text. I ignored them all. I just walked toward the parking lot, each step heavy but somehow freeing. I considered sleeping in my car just to avoid going back to the apartment. But I didn't. Eventually, I drove home. When I walked in, everything looked exactly the same. Carlos's jacket hanging neatly on the hook, his shoes lined up by the door, his morning coffee mug still sitting on the counter. But everything felt different. I resisted the urge to smash that stupid coffee mug against the wall. Instead, I left it untouched, like a silent middle finger. I changed into sweatpants, turned on the front light, and sat on the couch. Not hiding, not running, just waiting. At 1 a.m., the buzzer rang. Carlos was downstairs. I didn't let him in. At 2 a.m., after endless calls and texts, I blocked his number and finally collapsed into restless sleep. Morning came, but there was no peace. I unblocked him, part of me curious, part of me stupidly hoping for an apology. Instead, my phone blew up with messages. Dozens of them. None saying sorry. Every single one blaming me for embarrassing him, for making a scene, for being dramatic. No ownership, no guilt. Just accusations. And that's when it hit me. Carlos wasn't just mean. He wasn't just drunk. He thrived on control, on humiliating me, on making sure he always had the upper hand. It wasn't about love, it was about power. I packed a bag and went to my parents' house. The second I stepped inside, my mom pulled me into a hug so tight I could barely breathe. She didn't need details. She knew. My dad's face went hard, his jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. When I told them what happened, my dad left the room without a word. Later, I learned he'd gone straight to confront Carlos. Meanwhile, I stayed, and for the first time in years, I felt safe. But Carlos didn't back down. He doubled down. He painted himself as the victim, whispered lies to friends, told people I was unstable, accused me of making everything up. Becky and Alex tried to stay neutral, but even they couldn't hide their discomfort. I knew I had to fight back, not with screaming, not with drama, but with truth. I gathered every cruel text, every manipulative message, every receipt. Then I sent a calm, factual message to everyone in his circle, friends, cousins, even his mother, laying everything bare. Then I blocked him again. The fallout was explosive. Some people were shocked. Some didn't believe me. But many reached out with support. And slowly, Carlos's carefully crafted image began to crumble. He scrambled to control the narrative, new numbers, burner phones, desperate pleas. But it was too late. The truth was out. Carlos grew more desperate, showing up at my parents' house uninvited, shouting at my dad, demanding to see me. My mom stood her ground like a warrior, and my dad never left my side. Even his own family began questioning him. His mother's desperate calls, trying to rewrite the story, fell flat. My parents wouldn't budge. Social media became his last battleground, cryptic posts, sympathy-abating veiled insults. But the silence from everyone else was deafening. His world was shrinking. The divorce process was messy. Carlos fought over stupid things, the couch, the blender, even a set of cheap curtains. But I stayed steady. I found my own apartment, painted the walls, scrubbed it clean, and built a sanctuary just for me. The final turning point came at a family wedding. Carlos showed up, desperate to corner me, to win back the narrative, but I wasn't alone. My parents were right there, their presence a shield. When Carlos tried to cause a scene, the groom himself escorted him out. And for the first time in months, I felt peace. Carlos's social media pleas eventually faded into silence. His reputation tarnished, his circle of friends shattered. Meanwhile, I flourished quietly. I was promoted at work. I surrounded myself with true friends. And slowly, I wore my confidence like armor. Yes, the scars remain. But the cage is gone. This is my life now. My story. And I refuse to let his cruelty define me. To anyone listening, if you're trapped in the shadows of manipulation or abuse, please hear me. You can break free. It won't be easy. It'll be messy, painful, terrifying. But the light on the other side is worth it. If you found strength in this story, please like, comment with your own experiences or thoughts, and subscribe for more real stories of resilience. Remember, no one deserves to be silenced, humiliated, or diminished. Stand tall, claim your truth, and live on your own terms with power, dignity, and love.